A woman does not chase, she stands. And when the wind carries what was never meant to stay, she lets it. Because peace, child, is not found in the pursuit, it's found in the pause. You ever stood in a storm holding on to something that was already gone? Holding so tightly that your hands bled, but still you didn't let go? Because deep down you thought letting go meant losing. You thought it meant failure. You thought it meant weakness. But here's the truth, whispered like an old woman's prayer in the midnight hour. Letting go is not giving up. It is not surrender. It is not a breaking. It is a rising. Letting go is waking up to the fact that love should not feel like labor, that loving someone shouldn't come at the cost of loving yourself, that no matter how much you give, if it's not being received with respect, it becomes an empty transaction. And you cannot keep overdrafting your soul to pay for someone else's absence. When you stop fighting for something that only brings you pain, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign you've opened your eyes. Open them wide enough to see that your healing cannot be built on someone else's confusion, that your peace cannot bloom in the shadows of someone else's indecision, that the love you deserve doesn't live in a maybe. We've all been taught to hold on, to fight for what we want, to never walk away too soon. And yes, there is honor in commitment, but there is no glory in self-neglect. There is no prize for suffering the longest. There is no crown for the one who stays the most wounded. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave. Sometimes the most sacred act of love is the one you offer yourself when you say, no more. Waking up means you no longer confuse chaos with passion. You stop mistaking inconsistency for mystery. You stop reading silence as depth. You stop calling crumbs a feast and loneliness a soulmate. When you wake up, you realize that being loved should never mean you're in competition with peace. That love should never have to be earned by shrinking. That the version of you who stayed, who tried, who gave all they had, they were noble, yes, but they were tired. And tired women deserve to rest. And rest does not mean retreat. Rest means remembering who you were before they forgot your worth. Remembering what your laughter sounded like before you learned to silence it. Remembering how light your soul felt before you filled it with someone else's weight. Letting go is not closing the door in bitterness. It's opening the window to clarity. It's sitting at the edge of the bed in the morning and realizing the ache in your chest isn't love, it's loss of yourself. And once you realize that, the decision becomes simple. You are not meant to be a lesson in someone else's journey while they become the center of yours. You are not here to beg for the bare minimum. You are not created to live on pause, waiting to be chosen. When you let go, truly let go, you stop waiting. You stop watching the phone. You stop hoping they'll come around. And in that stillness, you meet the most important person, yourself. You meet the woman who cried at 2 a.m. and still showed up the next day. You meet the woman who apologized for her standards and now stands taller than ever. You meet the woman who doubted her strength until she realized this is what strength looks like. You don't need closure from someone who never gave you clarity. You don't need apologies from someone who never saw your pain. You don't need to explain why you're done. You only need to be done. There's a difference between loyalty and attachment. Loyalty grows love. Attachment grows fear. When you let go of fear, what remains is truth. And the truth will never abandon you. The truth will never ghost you, breadcrumb you, confuse you. The truth will hold you gently, even if it hurts. Waking up means understanding that some love is seasonal. Some people are bridges, not homes. And some endings are sacred beginnings. So you let go. Not because you're weak, not because you're bitter, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've started remembering. And there is no greater act of grace than choosing yourself fully, boldly, without apology, Letting go isn't giving up, it's stepping into the light of your own becoming. It's waking up, finally, beautifully, completely. You can fake a smile, you can say, I'm fine. You can wear the right dress, post the right pictures, laugh at the right jokes. You can do all that and still something won't sit right, something will feel off, because energy cannot lie. It doesn't matter how perfect the words are if the vibration underneath is saying, I'm hurting. It doesn't matter how you move through a room if your spirit is dragging behind you. People may not be able to explain it, but they can feel it. You can't hide what your soul is screaming. When you care too much, it shows. It shows in how often you check your phone. It shows in how you stay up late wondering why they haven't called, why they didn't text, what you did wrong. You replay every word, every moment, searching for a clue. You stretch yourself trying to read their silence like it's scripture. And all the while, your energy is giving away everything your mouth refuses to say. People feel it, especially the ones you're giving your heart to. Even if they don't understand it, they feel it when you're waiting on them. They feel it when your world starts spinning around their presence. They feel it when you're emotionally dependent, when you've handed them the remote control to your peace. And the truth is, people value what they have to meet, not what they can manipulate. They respect energy that stands tall, not energy that bends for crumbs. You don't have to say, I miss you. You don't have to chase. You don't have to beg. Your longing is already felt. And here's where it turns. The very moment you shift, the very second you pull your energy back into yourself and let go of the outcome, they feel that too. Suddenly, the weight they never carried starts to lighten. The pull they once had starts to weaken because something has changed. And they may not be able to name it, but it rattles them. The game isn't fun anymore when you stop playing it. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your peace becomes powerful. Your detachment becomes attractive. Not because you're trying to be mysterious or play hard to get, but because your energy has shifted. And remember, energy always tells the truth. It is the soul's language. The moment you stop seeking, the moment you stop hoping, the moment you start choosing yourself, your energy no longer reaches for someone who's not reaching back. This is why inner work matters. This is why healing isn't just about getting over someone. It's about coming back to yourself. When your energy is rooted in your worth, you no longer move from desperation. You no longer need to prove your value. You no longer shrink to be chosen. Instead, your presence becomes enough. People begin to notice the difference, the way you walk into a room, the way you speak less but say more, the way your joy becomes self-sustaining. The person who took you for granted feels the shift too. They feel it in your delayed responses, your calm detachment, your ease. They ask, are you okay? Not because they care, but because they sense the power returning to you. They sense the absence of your emotional labor. The weight you carried is no longer theirs to ignore. They feel the void and they call it distance. But really, it's freedom. People don't react to words. They react to frequency. You can tell someone 100 times that you're done, but if your energy is still begging them to stay, they'll feel that. And they'll stay just long enough to keep draining you. But when your energy says, I'm at peace with whatever happens, that's when they panic. That's when they come running, not because they've changed, but because you have. When you become the source of your own joy, you stop chasing anyone who dims your light. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to prove that you're doing better. Your aura will speak it. Your energy will carry it. It will walk ahead of you like a silent revolution, declaring your arrival back into your own life. So let your energy lead. Let it guide you away from confusion and toward clarity. Let it rise from places you once buried in shame. Let it carry the memory of every time you chose yourself after being forgotten by someone else. You don't need to shout your growth. You don't need to prove your worth. You only need to feel it, because once you do, so will everyone else. Energy doesn't lie, and once yours begins to speak truth, everything around you starts to listen. There is a difference between holding someone's hand and clinging to their shadow, a difference between loving someone and fearing they'll leave. But when you're deep in it, it's hard to see. You start calling your anxiety love. You start calling your fear of loss a sign that they matter. But attachment is not affection. It's not tenderness. It's not intimacy. Attachment is survival dressed up in desire. It's the desperate hope that someone else will make you feel whole while your own soul waits quietly to be remembered. When you've been hurt, when you've been abandoned or overlooked, you start to believe love must be earned. You learn to chase it. You learn to bend, to mold, to please. You think, if I can just be enough, maybe they'll stay. You stop asking yourself if you even want them to stay. You're too busy proving you're worthy of their presence. And before you know it, love becomes a battlefield where you're the only one fighting. Attachment thrives on uncertainty. It feeds off the ups and downs, the high of a sweet message after days of silence, the thrill of finally being seen just when you were about to walk away. It's a cycle. One that keeps you hooked, not because it's real, but because your nervous system has been trained to find comfort in chaos. That roller coaster, it's not romance, it's re-traumatization. Affection is quiet, it's steady. It holds you without needing to be asked. It doesn't vanish when you speak your truth. It doesn't punish you for needing reassurance. Affection is a hand reaching for yours, not to pull you somewhere you don't belong, but to remind you that you're not alone. Affection feels like home. Attachment feels like a test you're always failing. When we confuse the two, we stay in situations that deplete us. We call it passion. We say, but I love him. And maybe you do. But love without peace is not affection. It's addiction. You don't stay because you're fulfilled. You stay because you're afraid of what will happen if you leave. You think the emptiness will swallow you. You think you won't find better. You think being alone is worse than being unseen. That is the voice of attachment, not love. Real affection doesn't disappear when you draw a boundary. It doesn't punish you for asking questions. It doesn't make you second guess your value. Real affection meets you where you are. It sees your wounds and doesn't run. It doesn't fix you. It just holds you while you grow. It makes space for you to be soft, to be scared, to be human. And in that space, you heal. But to receive that kind of love, you have to release the kind that hurts. You have to look at your own patterns. You have to ask why inconsistency feels like home. You have to ask why the people who confuse you also excite you. You have to get real with yourself, not blame yourself, but see yourself. See the girl who didn't feel safe. See the child who had to earn attention. See the woman who thought love meant staying quiet, staying small, staying available. Then you remind her, you don't have to live like that anymore. You remind her that wanting love is human, but needing someone else to complete you is bondage. You remind her that the fear of being alone is not stronger than the power of being whole. You remind her that her worth is not up for negotiation, not by anyone, not anymore. When you let go of attachment, it doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop gripping, you stop needing, you start choosing, you start observing how someone shows up, how they respond to your needs, how they hold your heart. And if they don't handle it with care, you walk, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Love should not make you feel like you're drowning. It should not feel like waiting to exhale. It should not be measured by how much you can endure. Let go of the idea that suffering means you care. Let go of the belief that emotional chaos is passion. You don't have to chase people who pull away. You don't have to hold space for someone who keeps disappearing. You don't have to carry the relationship on your back. What you're looking for isn't in the push and pull. It's in the quiet steadiness of affection, the kind that doesn't confuse or control, the kind that doesn't leave you questioning your worth. That kind of love, it begins when you stop mistaking your pain for proof of love. It begins when you choose peace over patterns, when you choose you, because in the end, attachment will always keep you trapped, but affection, it sets you free. There's something sacred about space, not the kind filled with silence that stings, but the kind that breathes truth into confusion, the kind that allows you to step back and finally see what was right in front of you all along. When you're in it, deep in love, deep in hoping, deep in trying, it's hard to see clearly. Your vision is blurred by potential. You keep staring at what it could be instead of what it really is. That's what closeness does sometimes. It fogs your perception, makes excuses sound like explanations, makes temporary feel like forever. But distance clears the smoke. When you step away, even just a little, you begin to hear your own voice again, not the voice that was always bending to accommodate someone else's needs, not the voice that softened every time they disappeared and came back, but the one you silenced in order to keep the peace. The one that said, "This doesn't feel right." The one that whispered, "You deserve more." That voice gets louder when you give it room. Distance gives you that room. You stop living in reaction. You stop scanning their words for hidden meanings. You stop checking your phone like it's a lifeline. And in that stillness, the truth begins to form, not as a loud bang, but as a soft knowing. You realize you were chasing a version of love that only existed in your head, that what you wanted from them, they never had the capacity to give, that you were showing up more for the fantasy than the reality. It hurts at first. There's no denying that. Detaching always stings. You feel the ache of absence. You feel the weight of silence. You feel all the questions you avoided rising to the surface, but keep going, because that ache, it's not the loss of love, it's the breaking of illusion. It's the shedding of a skin that never truly fit. It's the pain of waking up. Sometimes it's only when you leave that you understand what you were in. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is walk away, not from them, but back to yourself. You start to see the patterns, how you kept giving without receiving, how you kept hoping instead of deciding, how you mistook intensity for intimacy. You remember the times you accepted half love and called it enough. You remember how often you felt alone while still in their arms. Clarity doesn't always come with closure, it comes with distance. And sometimes the clarity is this: they never truly saw you. They saw what you gave, they saw how you stayed, they saw your loyalty, but not your soul, not your needs, not your worth. And that realization doesn't come easily, but it comes honestly. And what about them? Yes, they'll feel it too. They'll feel the shift when you stop reaching, when you stop being available at their convenience, when you stop trying to fix what they keep breaking. They'll feel your absence like a cold front, even if they don't say it. Because people know when your energy no longer surrounds them. They feel when your heart has gone quiet. They may come back. They may send that text. They may check in to see if the door is still open. But by then, you'll be seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, you no longer let someone back in just because they remember your name. You don't take confusion and call it hope. You don't let loneliness lower your standards. Distance teaches you that love is not meant to be confusing, that the right person doesn't make you question your value, that peace is a non-negotiable. You start choosing based on how someone makes you feel when things are quiet, not when they're trying to win you back. You begin to honor your own voice above the noise of longing. With space, you grow. You learn to love in a way that doesn't demand your suffering. You stop needing validation from someone who never knew how to offer it. You begin to rebuild your foundation, brick by brick, with boundaries, with self-respect, with the understanding that the right love feels like ease, not exhaustion. You begin to trust yourself again. You stop doubting your instincts, you stop second-guessing your needs, and you stop being afraid of walking away, because now you know distance didn't break you. It revealed you, and the clarity it gave you was never a loss. It was the return of your power. There is a moment, quiet and small, when you stop hoping they'll call, when you stop waiting for an apology that never comes, when you stop bending your spirit just to be seen. That moment feels like an ending, but it's not. It's the beginning of your power. Because real strength doesn't roar, it doesn't scream or demand to be noticed. It detaches, it lets go, it chooses peace without asking permission. And that right there is where your power lives. Detachment is not about coldness. It's not about building walls or shutting yourself off from the world. It's not bitterness disguised as strength. Detachment is knowing what's yours to carry and what's not. It's standing in your truth without needing someone else to validate it. It's saying, I love you, but I won't lose myself for you. That's not indifference. That's clarity. When you're deeply attached, you often mistake intensity for connection. You feel every mood shift, every silence becomes a storm. You read into everything, what they said, what they didn't say, how long it took them to reply. You live on the edge of their attention, hoping the next moment will be different. And each time they pull away, you shrink. You shape-shift. You negotiate with your own needs just to keep the connection alive. But love is not meant to be survival. Detachment is the refusal to make your soul a sacrifice. It's the decision to no longer settle for being half-chosen. It's understanding that true love doesn't cost your identity. You begin to realize that your worth is not measured by how much you can endure, but by how deeply you can honor yourself. And you stop confusing silence for stability. You stop believing that pain is proof of love. You stop calling chaos passion. When you detach, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. You stop filling in the blanks with hope. You stop giving people roles they never auditioned for. You accept what's in front of you, not what lives in your imagination. And that acceptance doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. Because the minute you stop trying to change what doesn't want to change, you take your energy back. And that energy, it's everything. It's the light you lost while you were dimming yourself to be digestible. It's the joy you buried while waiting for them to choose you. It's the strength you forgot you had while carrying someone else's potential. When you detach, you become the keeper of your own fire. You stop handing your power to someone who only shows up when it's convenient. You stop dancing for crumbs. You stop begging for clarity from someone who thrives on your confusion. Power doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't stay where it isn't respected. It walks away, not with anger, but with grace. And when you walk with grace, you don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need to prove anything. The way you rise is enough. Detachment teaches you that peace is more valuable than presence. That someone being around doesn't mean they're with you. That silence can speak louder than promises. You start to understand that loving someone doesn't always mean keeping them close. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them go. And not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Let them go from your nervous system. Let them go from your thoughts. Let them go from your dreams of what could have been. That's not giving up. That's reclaiming your freedom. You are allowed to stop answering. You are allowed to let the call go to voicemail. You are allowed to not explain why you're done. Detachment doesn't need defense. It just is. Like still water, like a full moon, like breath. And in that space, quiet, calm, unshaken, you remember who you are. You remember the girl who once loved too loudly, too much, too soon. You remember the woman who stayed too long in places that bruised her. And you smile, not in shame, but in love. Because you see now that even your pain was holy. Even your longing was a teacher. And now that you've learned, you can let it all go. When you no longer tie your worth to someone else's presence, you return to yourself. You move differently. You speak differently. You no longer perform for love. You simply are love. And in that quiet confidence, you don't need to prove you're over it. Your peace speaks louder than your silence ever could. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It's the presence of self-respect. It's not closing your heart. It's opening it to the right things. It's not walking away from love. It's walking toward the love that doesn't hurt. And when you get there, you'll know your power was never in being chosen. It was in choosing yourself. There's a kind of presence that doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't chase, doesn't compete, doesn't perform. It just is. Quiet, steady, calm. The kind of presence that turns heads without raising its voice. That presence is peace. And there is nothing more attractive in this world than a soul that is no longer fighting for validation. A soul that has nothing to prove and everything to protect. When you carry peace, you don't need to announce your worth. It arrives before you do. People feel it before they see it. The way you enter a room without needing to dominate it. The way you hold silence like it's your favorite language. The way your eyes say, I'm not here to impress, I'm here to be. That's the kind of energy people remember, not because it's loud, but because it's rare, because we live in a world addicted to noise, to drama, to constant movement. So when someone walks in with stillness, it startles something in us. It reminds us of what we're missing. Peace isn't passivity. It isn't weakness or avoidance. It's power. It's knowing that you don't have to react to everything, that not everything deserves your energy. It's choosing your responses instead of being ruled by your emotions. It's the wisdom to know when to speak and when to let silence be the final word. It's control, not over others, but over yourself. There is nothing more magnetic than someone who knows themselves. Not just the polished parts, but the wounded places too. Someone who has faced their shadows, who has sat with their pain long enough to learn from it. Someone who doesn't seek chaos to distract them from their loneliness. When you find peace within, you stop needing to borrow it from someone else. You become your own safe space. That kind of wholeness can't be faked. You can't dress it up. You can't mimic it with quotes and routines. It's something that is earned through solitude, through healing, through unlearning the idea that your value comes from how much you do, how much you give, how much you endure. Peace comes when you start choosing yourself without guilt. When you stop trying to rescue people who won't save themselves. When you release the weight of needing to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you, people will notice the shift. They'll feel the difference, not because you said anything, but because you stopped saying everything. You no longer explain, defend, justify. You let your peace speak for you, and when someone disrupts it, you don't argue, you just step back. You don't make a scene, you don't burn bridges, you just stop crossing them. Because now you understand the cost. You start to attract differently. You stop calling in people who are drawn to your wounds, who need your chaos to feel needed. You start attracting people who are drawn to your calm. People who don't want to fix you or be fixed, but to walk beside you in harmony. People who are also doing the work, also choosing peace, also done with the drama that once felt like love. You see, peace is not just something you carry, it's something you protect. It's not enough to find it, you have to guard it. You have to build boundaries like walls around your spirit, not to keep love out, but to keep your peace in, because you've learned how much it costs to earn it. You've learned that people will take and take if you keep giving from your exhaustion. You've learned that saying no is not rude, it's sacred. And here's the truth. Peace doesn't mean life is perfect. It means you no longer crumble when it's not. It means your center holds even when the world doesn't. It means your happiness isn't tied to someone else's presence. Your worth isn't tied to someone else's praise. You've stopped negotiating your joy. You've stopped shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. There's a light in you now, A glow that isn't about beauty or charisma, it's about alignment. You've come home to yourself. You laugh a little easier. You cry without shame. You move through your days with intention, and people notice. Even if they can't name it, they'll say, "You seem different," and you are, because you're no longer trying to become anything. You're simply being fully, freely, unapologetically. And that, more than anything else, is what draws people in, not your effort, not your performance, but your peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing who you are, honoring what you feel, and refusing to chase what doesn't align with your soul. In the end, that's what we all long for, not just someone to love us, but someone who is at peace within themselves. Because peace is safety, peace is freedom, peace is power. And once you've found that within, you'll never again trade it for anything less. So I say this to every soul listening: stop shrinking, stop begging, stop proving, rest. If he's for you, he'll find you. If he's not, let him go where the lost things go, but don't lose yourself in the process. The day you stop caring for the chase is the day he starts remembering your worth. But by then, you'll be too full of yourself to go back to empty.